Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. So today we're going to be discussing how the United States expands its control over additional territories throughout North America. Well, we've already talked about how during Thomas Jefferson's presidency, he's going to purchase the Louisiana Territory from France. We've defined Thomas Jefferson as an expansionist, which were people who emerged in the late 1700s who believed the United States was destined to control more territories throughout North America, rather than the territories that it had controlled by the late 1700s that you see here. So Thomas Jefferson, through making the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, he's going to nearly double the size of the United States. He's going to buy the Louisiana Territory from France during his presidency. And then we also talked about how our fifth president, James Monroe, is going to enter into an agreement with Spain to acquire Florida from Spain for the United States. And we talked about how John Adams' son, John Quincy Adams, is going to serve as James Monroe's Secretary of State, and he's basically going to iron out all the negotiations with Spain and draw up the contract so that James Monroe, basically all he has to do is sign the contract. And once James Monroe signs that contract with Spain, called the Adams-Onis Treaty, in 1819, the United States officially acquires Florida from Spain. So take a moment to reflect. How do you think the United States gets the rest of that land out west where you see the question mark here? So we know Thomas Jefferson purchases the Louisiana Territory from France during his presidency in 1803. We also know at this point that the United States acquires Florida through the Adams-Onis Treaty, signed by President James Monroe during his presidency. So how do you think the United States acquires the rest of that land in the West, of which it is currently in control of? So Mexico is going to gain its independence from Spain in 1821. And Mexico no longer wanted to be controlled by Spain. Spain no longer wanted to control lands in North America once the 1800s start. They're going to slowly pull out of controlling their territories in North America. They're going to grant Mexico their independence in 1821, and they're going to kind of back out of controlling all of those territories in Central America as well, of which they once controlled. So in 1821, the area known as New Spain now becomes its own independent country of Mexico. And you see, Mexico contains a lot of territories in the modern day United States during this time, including areas like Texas and California, and even where the modern day state of Oregon is. So much of this modern day southwestern United States was under the control of Mexico in 1821, upon the country of Mexico receiving its independence from Spain. Now, Mexico is going to allow Americans to live in Texas. So a bunch of Americans, they begin to move out to Texas, and they enjoy living in the area of Texas. What they don't enjoy is being under the control of the Mexican government when they are moving to places like Texas. Okay. So what the Americans living in Texas decide to do, because they don't like being under the control of the Mexican government, is they're going to declare themselves independent of Mexico's government's control. So they don't like the Mexican government. They don't like how the Mexican government's ruling over the land. So similar to the 13 colonies, they're going to declare their independence. But this time it's from Mexico. and they're going to successfully win their independence from Mexico. So once the Texans win their independence from Mexico, they actually become their own independent country for a while, and they call themselves the Republic of Texas. So at this point, Texas is independent of Mexico's government's control, and they're also independent of the United States' government's control. So they're their own republic, but they want to join the United States because many of them are former American citizens. And the United States also wants to add Texas to the United States. But the big problem that is preventing Texas from joining the United States, even though the United States Congress wants to add Texas to the United States, is Mexico. Mexico still wants to regain control of Texas. So Mexico plans an attack on Texas, and Texas looks to the United States for help because the Republic of Texas, it doesn't want to be retaken over by Mexico, and it wants to be part of the United States. So what the United States government does is it's going to send its military to fight alongside the Texans for their independence from Mexico. And thus, the Mexican-American War breaks out, which was a conflict between the United States and Mexico for the territory of Texas. Okay. So President James K. Polk is president of the United States during this conflict, and he's going to send a future president who's part of the United States Army during the time, Zachary Taylor, along with many other soldiers to Texas to help Texas fight to keep its independence from Mexico so it can be added later as a state to the United States. And the United States is going to declare war with Mexico over Texas on May 13th, 1846.